Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the July Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team stats, going over all the global tournament data that happened in the month of July. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video and the stats. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below for free, and a affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support as well. So once again, all the stats are collated from the Best Coast Pairings app. So if your event isn't using Best Coast Pairings, let me or my Statman Smiles Lies Gunfire know, and then we can add your event to all this data. But once again, thanks goes to Smiles Lies Gunfire. Without him, none of this would be possible. He's done this all for free, for everyone's pleasure. And I will have an article version of this linked in the episode description below. It will be his his website where he makes the stats public for everyone. So you can see all the stats and you get to filter them as you would like to, like I get to. And it will be updated shortly after this video goes live. So feel free to check out. It's a great website with a lot of posts and updates from Smiles Lies Gunfire himself. So it's a great way to access the stats at your own leisure at home. So starting off with the world map, as you can see, Spain had the largest number of players this month by just over 30, right? They beat America's nice 369 players with 393. And then once again, you had United Kingdom with 106 players, Canada with 104, and then Russia with 84. As you can see, Australia continues to be decimated by Beta Decima. It is an error with Google Sheets. So it's not us deleting Australia, it's New Zealand. No, I mean, it's Google, so blame Google. So going off of the global win rates for July, up at top with 65% win rate, with 97 games, which is decent, is Wormblade. So they have been a very good faction and they've done incredibly well for July. Then we've had Inquisitory Agents with 111 games, with a 63% win rate. Aren't we glad those two factions weren't here? Then we have Brood Brothers with 320 games, the third most popular faction in the game right now, with a 58% win rate. I'm sure all those people who said they're just okay, they're not that, they're not that broken, they're just fine, are very correct right now. But it is kind of worrying when a team like this is doing so well with a large number of games, but it's not really surprising. Most content creators and people, when they saw the rules, thought it'd be like this. So it was just nice to see how they've done in a full month of games, which is terrifying. Felgor Ravager with 100 games have a 58% win rate. So this is still with a full month after being nerfed, and they're doing pretty well. Then we have Void Dancer Troop. So they only have 44 games, but they have a 57% win rate, which is pretty good. Then we have Blooded with 139 games and a 56% win rate, which is great as well. Then just below them, we have Novitiates with 55% at 95 games. Scouts, right? Scouts jumping up to 55% win rate with 271 games. Remember, they were the worst faction consistently. And now look at them now. Look at those lovely Scouts. I believe it will only go up. Then Legionary have done quite well. They've gone up to 53%. And then oddly, we have Galapox evening out at 52% with 110 games. So getting more popular, but their win rate's gone down. Nemesis Claw still the most popular faction in the game with 344 games with a 51% win rate. And Blades of Cain averaging out as well. Going below 45%, we have Intercession Squad, but they are basically at 45. Hand of the Archon just at 44. Star Striders, their worst month for a long time, dropping down to 44% with 130 games. Farstalker Kinband at 43% with effectively 50 games. Kazakin holding their own at 41% with 96 games. And then, my gosh, Hieratech, call your agent, 104 games with a 36% win rate. My gosh, it's time to go back and wait for the next uprising. And then you have Strikeforce Justian at the bottom. So as you can see in the graph, you've got the more evened out, rounded out place. Remember, 55 and above is good. 55 to 45 is good. Above 55, bad. Below 45, also bad. And it's just averaging out there. As you can see, Wormblade and Inquisition up at the top, closely followed by Brood Brothers and Felgor, and technically Void Dancer Troop. And then down below, you know, we have Hand of the Archon, Star Striders, Kroot, Kazakin, and then poor Hyrotech. Like, Justin have basically been always around this win rate, but it's really depressing to see for Hyrotech. Definitely hit too hard, but we'll see how it goes in their second month of nerfs. Then we have the podium data. So here's all the table showing each individual podium faction. And from the chart, you can see that Brood Brothers had the most podiums at 18 with the highest rates of 3 and 1 or greater. And they won 7 events overall. Mandrakes, even though they did okay in terms of win rate, they won 7 events as well and podiumed really high. Compendium, oddly somehow podiuming 6 times. I was winning 6 events, I'm sorry. Podium 15 times. No idea what's going on there. Nemesis Claw won 6 events. Commandos won 5. Wormblade won 5. Phobos won 5, along with Inquisition and Blooded. Hunterclade won 4 events. Halfkin won 3 with Warp Coven. Galapox won 2, as well as Blades of Cain and Farstalker Kinband. So even despite their dismal win rate, Farstalkers won 2 events, and then everyone pretty much evened out. The only factions to not win events were Legionary, Vet Guard, Breachers, Exaction Squad, Hand of the Archon, Void Dancer Troop, and Strikeforce Justin. So then we've got all the placement data, and what Smiles Lights Gunfire told me is what's really noticeable is a faction with a 20% or above placing rate is really, really good. So when you look at this, you can see Wormblade at 41%, which is very, very, very good. Inquisition at 31%, which is very, 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 very good. And then you've got the good factions at Blades of Cain, Hunterclade, Blooded, Novitiates, Mandrakes, and Brood Brother, all at around 20%, right? Which is still really good. It means they are placing very highly when it comes to events. So as you can see with the chart, most factions are actually pretty close to 20%. And then we just have Inquisition and Wormblade spiking well above that. It'll be interesting to see how it does in the full quarter 3 stats when we look at August and September, but it's kind of worrying. But it is what it is. Then when we go to GT+, so these are 4 events with 4 or more rounds and 16 or more players. Inquisitorial Agents have 66% win rate. Novitiates have 62%, both with around 50 games. Wormblade have a 62% win rate. Galapox have a 59% win rate with 47 games. Scouts with 138 games jump up to 58%. Exaction with only 33 games are 58% as well. Felgor holding at 57. Brood Brothers drop down a bit to 56%. And then really surprisingly, with only 17 games, we have Kroot at 56%. So overall, they weren't doing that great, but when it came to longer format events, they did much better. Now, for underperforming teams, Hand of the Archon do a little bit better, hitting the 45% average. Star Striders do a little bit worse, going down to 44%. Well, staying the same. Warp Coven drop down as well, going down to 42. Hyrotech go a bit better at 41%, but Corsairs and Pathfinders drop down to effectively 41% as well. And here's the chart, the data in chart format. So you can see we've had quite a big change where Inquisition have taken the lead, but we've had some surprise drops when it comes to Corsairs and Pathfinders, which is very interesting. And when it comes for podiums for GT+, Brood Brothers won 3 events, and they had the most podiums at 8, and then Mandrakes won 2 events. Halfkin actually won 2 events as well. Commandos, Harnkin, Jaeger, Inquisition, Galapox, Hunterclade, Blooded, and Farstalkers all won 1 event as well. So pretty consistent performance there. The interesting thing is with Scouts. So Scouts didn't win any events. They podiumed twice, but they had a huge spike when it came to the number of players that went 3 wins and 1 loss or better. So that's crazy. And then Brood Brothers obviously doing a Commandos, where not only are they now spiking in win rate, they are spiking in tournament wins and performance. And then once again, here's all the placement percentage for GT+. We've got some notable changes here, but let's get into the chart. So as you can see in the chart, Inquisition, Galapox, and Novitiates, and Scouts, and Halfkin, and Farstalker Kinband, and Wormblade all have a decent chunk above 20%, but the real shout-outs are Scouts, Novitiates, Galapox, and Inquisitorial Agents. So when it comes to GT Plus events, these factions, well, these players and factions are placing far higher compared to most other players and factions, because it evens out when it comes to Wormblade and actually Brood Brothers. So an interesting change here. And then you've got that huge 3-on-1 spike for Exaction. So here's the GT Long win rate. So once again for GT Long, this are events with 6 or more rounds and 30 or more players. As always, 50%. We have factions with less than 30 games do not appear on GT Long just because it's unreliable. So it's a more reduced list. But for GT Long, with, remember, much more reduced games, Novitiates with a 73% win rate, Inquisition consistently with a 67% win rate, Scouts jumping up to a 64% win rate with 76 games, Wormblades at 63%, Felgor still doing well at 60%, then Brood Brothers just at 56%, but with the most games. Mandrakes still evening out pretty well. And then when we go to underperforming factions, we have Star Striders at 43%, Corsairs at 37%, and Pathfinder's dropping down to 34%. And once again, here is the chart showing it more clearly. So once again, GT Long is a bit more swingy, but it's more indicative of overperforming factions when it comes to GT Long. So it's very interesting to see that. Once again, Novitiates really do well in GT Long, but we've had consistent performance from Inquisition and Wormblade, with Scouts jumping up to show they really like long format events. And then here's all the placings data. And with the chart, you can see for GT Long, only Mandrakes, Inquisition, and Hunterclade won those kind of events, with Brood Brothers podiuming 3 times, and Novitiates podiuming twice, with Commandos podiuming once. So we did only have 3 GT Long events this month, but still an interesting fact of data to look at. Then here's all the placing percentage, and what I should add is 15% is the average. So 20 is really good, and once again, above 20 is crazy. So Novitiates, they had a low pick rate, you know, a more like the higher factions pick rate, it will stabilize their placing percentage. So obviously they had a few number of games that were spiking quite hard, but Inquisition and Inquisition consistently performing very well in this format. And here it is in chart form, just showing you in a more clear way, with once again Wormblade doing really well in terms of overall players, but a lower faction placing highly when it comes to GT Long. But Novitiate's doing well as well as Inquisition. Then here are the Compendium win rates. So as you can see, Traitor Space Marines with 6 games have a 75% win rate. Death Guard with 29 games have a 55% win rate. Then you have Orcs at 50%, Hive Fleet at 47%, and then Talons of the Emperor at 46%. And for their placement data, like, yeah, somehow Compendium's won 5 events. They won 5 events. Compendium isn't dead. And then here's the event list showing, you know, some of the events we've got all the events, but here's just a selection of some so you can see what we used. So for the July 2024 stats overview, well, if you watched the balanced Dataslate review and you were like, oh, well, you know, maybe they were wise in not hitting Inquisitorial Agents and Wormblade, looking at July stats, you would go, no, that was not wise. Interestingly, Galapox had their most okay month, but it's kind of interesting because they've risen in popularity. Normally they've been hitting around 80 games, 70 games. This month they had 111 games, and it's brought down their win rate to about 52%. So just an interesting fact there. They did win about, I think, 2 events overall, so still doing very well. Inquisitorial Agents and Wormblade doing very well was not too surprising. Like, they are very, very good factions that have just kind of flown under the balance radar. And then Brood Brothers doing Brood Brothers stuff is not really unexpected. It's just kind of funny when there were certain people saying this faction was just okay and not really that powerful. Because it's just like, they're doing so well. They're almost the most popular faction in the game. Nemesis Claw still doing well. Mandrake's doing well. Mandrakes are actually winning quite a lot of events, but their win rates come down, but they're still a very popular faction. Void Dancer Troop did quite well. The interesting thing when it came to underperforming factions is Star Striders not doing well at all this month, which is a very sudden change for the faction, as well as Corsairs and Pathfinders when you get into more competitive formats. The really sad thing is Hierotech. Overall, Hierotech are doing horribly. They're a bit better when you get into more competitive formats, but yeah, I feel really bad for Hierotech players. They went from being very oppressive to now being very oppressed, which I don't think they really deserve that kind of a hit. And especially as we're probably not going to get any more balance changes, it's a bit of a shame to see such a faction which was doing so well knocked down so heavily. Now, this is just the first month after the balanced data slate. Interesting, like Felgor still doing very well. As I said, they're very strong. You just can't play them mindlessly. But maybe it will change. Higher attack players may adapt. They're still a quite popular faction, so maybe players will get more used to it, or it will get worse. I have a feeling it will get worse, which is unfortunate because it was nice to see Necrons doing well. Of course, they needed a slight tone down, but this tone down was too much. But overall, very interesting results. Like Rising Star Scouts hitting 55% overall. And then as we get into more competitive formats, they're spiking up. And I will expect that to rise as more players join the faction and get more used to them. They're just very, very good. So we'll be interested to see how it goes in August, because we've got a lot of big majors. We have Nova. We've got WTC. There's lots of big events happening, so it's going to be very cool. Like we've got Warhammer World as well, a 2-dayer at the same time as WTC, so it should be very interesting to see how the meta evolves once we've got the August data as well. And I'll probably do a final roundup of that. But once again, if you want to see this in article format, it'll be in the episode description below on Smiles Lies Gunfire Stats website. And thanks goes to him, because without him, it wouldn't be possible. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the stats today. If you like them, anything I missed, anything you'd like to cover, or any other interesting trends you noticed. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate link on games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. And I'll quickly share my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Willax, Tom, Supercow, Stephen, Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Mercenary Q, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Dave Meatswell, Dad of Goldens, Chris, and then for my veterans of the crew, I have Sam. Just to thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, I'll be back with more videos soon. It's so hot. I tried to wait. It's like currently like 10:40 p.m. and it's boiling. I'm so moist. My stream will be going live this week on Thursday, because this video goes out on a Wednesday. It meant to be about on the Tuesday, but I'm like, well, Monday. But I'm shattered from work and this heat is horrible. I do not have air conditioning. The planet is dying. But I think I'm gonna have to stick to one video a week for a while. I'm quite burned out, but I'll still be posting stuff. We should have some interesting stuff soon, like Gen Con's coming up. Might get some Gen Con reveals, and then obviously Nova. Nova's going to be pretty cool. I'll be at Nova, so if you're at Nova, come there. But yeah, until next time, no matter what the stats say, remember there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.